Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. Now we're starting our webinar. Manitoba Start is the leading provider of career services to the newcomers in the province of Manitoba and connects businesses to a world-class workforce. I would like to welcome you all to this Spotlight webinar, a series of live broadcasted events designed to assist you in entering the Manitoba labor market. Manitoba Start acknowledges that we are gathered on Treaty 1 territory, the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Anishinawak, Dakota Oyate, Denisoline, and Nitoac nations, and the homeland of the Red River Métis. We acknowledge that our water is sourced from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation. As a newcomer serving organization, we commit to learning about the histories, cultures, and the rights of the Indigenous communities to strive to build a respectful and supportive relationship for all. My name is Luna. I'm the Outreach Coordinator here at Manitoba Start, and I will be your host for today's webinar. I'm just gonna admit the people who are waiting on the lobby. Okay. So given the large number of participants who joined this webinar, we have muted your microphone to allow for better clarity and less interference. So before we start the session, we will be going through a couple of housekeeping items. So by the end of the session, we will have a Q&A with the representative. So to ask your question or to give comment, you can raise your hand. The Teams has a feature to raise your hand. So to do this, you can click on the participants button in the meeting controls, find the raise hand icon next to your name and click on it. And this will notify us that we have a raised hand. So once I allowed you to speak, you can unmute yourself from your side and ask your question. Or you can also use the Q&A feature that allows you to ask your question right on the Q&A. So to access this, click on the more options, three dots button in the meeting control and select Q&A, and then you can write your question in that panel. You're free to use the chat as well. So before I introduce our presenter for today, I would like to run a few polls just to get to know you more better. So we do have 4 polls. I'm going to launch the first one. So our first poll for today is asking, are you registered with Manitoba Start? You should have it on your screen. You can select yes or no and then click on submit. I'll give you a moment to answer. Okay, now we will be closing the poll, the first poll. Okay, from the responses that we get, we have 100% registered with Manitoba Start. Thank you, everyone. We'll go on with the second one. So our second poll for today is asking, do you need help with your resume, cover letter, or interview prep? And now I will be closing the second poll, and I will share the results with you. So from the responses, we have 80% responding yes and 20% no. So for those of you who wants to help with your resume, cover letter, or interview prep, generally like employment support services, we will share more information on how Manitoba Start can help you with your employment. Okay, so our third poll for today will be asking, your location. So where are you joining us from today? Are you from northern Manitoba, southern Manitoba, Winnipeg, or outside of Canada? Claudia, that's okay. You can also reply on the chat. So for those of you who cannot access the polls, yeah. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. I can see your reply on the chat. Okay, and all the responses. Winkler, Manitoba, Josh, thank you. Thank you for joining us today. And we have all the responses on the poll. Attending from Canada, I mean Winnipeg. Mesky is outside of Canada. Thank you for joining us. Really appreciate your attendance today. In Ontario, Bola, welcome, welcome again. Okay, so I'm launching the last poll for today. And it's asking what's your reason for attending this webinar? Are you an internationally educated professional, a settlement worker, a career coach, or other? Okay, I can see some replies on the chat. Thank you everyone for participating. We have some other professionals, internationally educated professionals, and I'm closing the poll so we can see the results. We do have a mix of attendees today. We have internationally educated professionals, 46%, plus those who are replying on the chat. We have settlement workers, career coaches, and other professions as well. So mixed of clients, mixed of attendees. Again, thank you everyone for participating in the polls. So our today's webinar is focusing on the City of Winnipeg. So the City of Winnipeg is an organization where you can build a career and make a difference to your community. They offer a competitive salary, pension, and benefits package, a wide range of challenging career choices, and a respectful, diverse, safe, and healthy workplace. So our today's presentation will cover overview of what the City of Winnipeg is structured like, including the breakdown of their departments and services, the jobs they are currently hiring for and often hire for throughout the year, and how applicants can apply with them, as well what they look like, what they look for in a resume, cover letter, interview, and the benefits of working for the City of Winnipeg. So please help me welcome Todd from the City of Winnipeg. Over to you, Todd.
Thank you so much, and thanks everybody for joining today. I see we have a pretty full crowd, so appreciate you all being here. Just going to share my screen for you all. All right, so for those of you who may be familiar with the city or maybe haven't heard of us that much, we're the municipal government, so we're the local level of government. We actually are one of the largest employers in Manitoba. We have over 10,000 employees, so that means 10,000 jobs. So there's always lots of jobs that we're hiring for all the time. And as mentioned, I'll talk about some of those positions that we hire for regularly, as well as some of the jobs we currently have open today as well. So for those of you who don't know the kinds of work that we do, we really are doing everything to kind of make the local community run. So keeping our parks clean, dealing with Winnipeg Transit for public transportation, dealing with cleaning the streets and the sidewalks, either of snow or sand, debris. We're getting into the time now where everything's dirty and dusty, so we're starting our spring clean. We also deal with our wading pools, our libraries, all those kind of fun things. So I'm going to talk about a bunch of our different departments. I'm not going to talk about every single one of them, but these are the ones that generally hire the most throughout the year. I know we're all focusing on work here and looking for jobs, so I want to really make sure that that's the focus. So the first department that some of you may or may not be familiar with is called assessment and taxation. What they do is they do all the property valuations and property taxes for all the different business and commercial buildings in the city. So if you're interested in things like real estate, being the person who actually assesses the values of those homes, they have a really great career path where you can start as a technical assistant, which is kind of one of our entry-level jobs. Excuse me. And then you move up to a field assistant and eventually a valuation officer. And they help pay for your education. It's all online and everything like that to become a valuation officer. So really great career path if you're just looking for somewhere to start. Now, I mentioned a bit about community services. They really are a fun department. They're the ones who have all the pools, arenas, leisure centers, libraries. They also have animal services, so they deal with dog adoptions, dog and cat licensing. They deal with the leisure guide, so booking things like swimming lessons, cooking courses, whatever it may be. They contract staff to come and actually lead those courses too. They hire library shelvers, recreation technicians, instructors, and lifeguards, all of those positions to keep the pools running. You'll see those quite often through the year. And then there's also bylaw support. I don't know if any of you are really familiar with what a bylaw is, but it's really like a local law. A good example of it would be if you owned a house and you have a yard, your yard can't be full of garbage. So if you do find that somebody has a yard full of garbage, you can call 311, report them, or the bylaw support staff will come out and either let you know what you need to do about cleaning it up, or sometimes they issue fines as well. Now, customer service and communications, this is where a lot of our positions are, but the big area here is 311. And that's actually where I got my start at the city. I've been in the city for 16 years, and I got it all from starting at 311 and really learning a lot about all of our different departments from there. We have 4 call centers at the city, but 311 is the largest call center, it's an inbound call center, and you're really just answering questions about city services or putting in requests to our different departments to do specific work. So really great opportunity if you're interested in customer service work. They do hire multiple times throughout the year, and there'll probably be another recruitment coming up pretty soon. If you're not interested in the customer service aspect, but you are interested in communications, we have marketing staff, graphic designers, advertising positions, and even communications officers. So lots of roles through there too. Corporate finance, this is our job for all of you folks who are really good with math and handling money. Lots of jobs in accounting, such as accounting technicians. We have clerical accounting supports, everything like that. Payroll staff through all of our departments, usually working alongside HR. And there's even a corporate treasury right at City Hall. I know a lot of you are interested in more of that technical kind of work, and our IT division is definitely one of our quickest growing. I'm not kidding when I say that we have new jobs for all of our departments coming out almost every single day at the city. And I would say IT probably has new jobs coming out every week or two. So lots of opportunities through IT to both support our employees and our divisions and really helping support in all that technical aspects. Everything from data science positions to programmers to interns, whatever you may have. Now, human resource services, that's where I work for. So if you're interested in HR, we have a lot of roles there too. We actually have 8 HR departments across the city that help support all the recruitment, labor relation, all that kind of generalist HR roles for all of our departments. But then we also have specialty agencies. So for myself, I'm a senior talent acquisition specialist. So I work with our talent acquisition services, which really helps with recruitment and supporting all of our departments and helping with their recruitment efforts. We have health and safety, though, compensation and benefits, labor relations, employee development for training, so many of those specialty areas too. So lots of roles in HR if you're wanting to get into that. Now, 2 departments that kind of work hand in hand are planning, property and development, and assets and project management. And a good way to think about both of these departments is they're really responsible for the properties in the city. And I'm not talking about assessment and tax, how everybody, all those people who own houses, they're paying taxes. No, I'm talking about the city's land and the city's buildings. So, for instance, if you need to get a permit to build a garage onto your home, you would have to go through PP&D and deal with them there. Whereas our assets and project management, they really more help focus on actually maintaining the buildings. So we hire building servicers, custodial attendants, locker room attendants, office cleaners, all of those kind of jobs, and they do get hired quite often throughout the year too. They also operate a few golf courses throughout the city and a few cemeteries as well. Public Works, they're definitely one of our largest departments. They're the ones who deal with all the roadway systems, the parks, the open spaces, the forests, all the road work that gets done. So whether it be filling potholes, cleaning the streets, whatever it is, that's all through our Public Works division. But they also hire laborers. They have lots of technologists. They have arborists for forestry. They hire engineers, insect control for all the mosquitoes and different bugs like that throughout the years. So lots of work for them. And if you are interested in more of that, summertime work or just looking for something kind of seasonally, we do generally hire those positions pretty early in the year. There's still a few that are up right now that you can see, but for Public Works, they generally start hiring pretty early because they bring on a couple hundred staff every year. Now, Winnipeg Transit, definitely one of our largest departments. I mentioned that we have over 10,000 employees, and over 1,000 of those employees are just bus operators, just driving buses. So there's lots of opportunity to join the city as a bus operator and lots of room to move from there. They have tons of supervisors supporting all that staff. Even the director of Winnipeg Transit started off as a bus operator. So lots of room to grow there too, and really learn about all the different aspects of transit as you move up. The nice thing about Winnipeg Transit too is you only need your Class 5 driver's license in order to apply, which is just your full standard license for driving a car. And through the paid training, they'll help you get your Class 2 license as well. So really great opportunity. If you're not interested in that though, they have everything from customer service staff. They have Winnipeg Transit Plus, which is another one of our call centers. They have truck and transport mechanics and apprentices. They have HR staff, admin staff, whatever you may be looking for. Water and waste, they're the ones who bring all of that city from Shoal Lake 41st Nation right into our city properties. They also oversee the garbage, recycling, yard waste, and compost collections. They hire traffic directors for the Brady Road landfill and the 4R recycling depots quite often to help direct people around there. Our third call center at the city is our utility billing center. They're the ones who deal with the actual water bills. So the customer service role, but it's a little bit more advanced because you are dealing with billing as well there. And oftentimes they're looking for folks who can speak both French and English. It's not always a requirement, but if you see it on the job posting, you'll probably see it on the utility billing center posting, and just know that that's always something that they look for. And then finally, there's our emergency services, Winnipeg Fire Paramedic Service and Winnipeg Police. If you're interested in getting into those emergency services, I definitely recommend checking their websites directly. They have lots of great information. But there's a lot of other roles if you're not interested in getting right into the emergency services. Maybe you want to be a communications operator or a dispatcher, work at our other call center, our 911 call center for emergency calls. We have lots of civilian positions, again, HR, research, admin, communications. And one really great thing that Winnipeg Fire Paramedic does is they have something called the Diversity and Equity Fire Training Program, where it generally focuses on people in certain equity groups, a lot of times newcomers, getting their level 1 and level 2 fire certification to start their move into being a firefighter. So if that's of interest to you, definitely keep an eye out for that. That's just one of the examples of equity, diversity, and inclusion programs we have here. But it is really important to the work we do because we have such a diverse city. We always want to make sure that we are properly representing the community that we serve and making sure that we're bringing on people who have lived experience to really add to our diverse skilled workforce. We do this in a number of ways. Sometimes you'll see on a job posting, we're specifically looking for somebody in an equity group, or somebody might be given preference if they're in an equity group that is underrepresented. And sometimes what we'll do is we'll also accept reasonable accommodations. So for any job posting you see, you can ask for an accommodation. And if you don't really know what an accommodation is, it usually has something to do with a barrier in the hiring process. So a lot of people think of accommodations as being on the job. So maybe you have a sore back and you need a different kind of chair. That's something we can get you on the job. That's an easy one. But a lot of people don't think about it through the hiring process. Maybe you have anxiety and you need some extra time to do your test. Or maybe it's really hard for you to, pay attention when somebody is speaking to you, and it's easier for you to read along. Well, you can ask for hard copy versions of the interview questions so you can read along with them. There's not really any limit to what an accommodation can be. It's always going to be really unique to your needs. If it's reasonable, we will certainly accept it. I always recommend to people, either in the hiring process or on the job, if you need something, just ask. The worst we can say is no, but we usually will either accept it or try to work with you to find something that does work. We also have a newcomer welcome and inclusion policy, which is really just aimed at making the city more welcoming for all newcomers. But if you go to winnipeg.ca and you search newcomers to Winnipeg, you'll find a great page that has a lot of information. Even if you're not new to Winnipeg, I always say this is a great website to check out just because it really talks about all the different city services we have there and really improving access to those services. We want to make sure that we're better meeting everybody's distinct needs too, and also increasing that public awareness on human rights, equity, diversity, and inclusion. We also do this for all of our staff. All of our employees have to go through mandatory training. One of it is an Indigenous awareness training. And then the other aspect is called Journey to Inclusion, which is anti-racism, anti-oppression, and cultural competency training. And that's again to make sure that all of our staff here really understand the needs of all of our citizens and the diverse workforce that we have. So when you're going through the application process, one of the first steps you're going to see is it's going to ask you to self-declare. And it's going to have a number of different areas you can self-declare under. Just keeping in mind that this is really us focusing on how we can further contribute and develop to our equity, diversity, and inclusion policy and strategy. None of the information is required for you to give. You can not answer it, or you can not answer select areas where you just prefer not to disclose that information. However, just know that this information isn't being used against you or anything like that. We use it separately from when we're going through the resume screening and everything like that. So it's not like we're looking at your self-declaration and also looking at your resume. It's usually just for us to know kind of, where our representation is throughout the city, and possibly tying that in if there's a recruitment that is directly targeting those groups. All right, so jobs, which is I know what all of you are interested in today. We have a number of different employment opportunities at the city. And I'm not kidding when I said earlier that we have new jobs that come out almost every single day. So if you go to winnipeg.info/jobs, that's where you'll find all of our positions. Again, new jobs coming out all the time, but I recommend to check every week or two so you don't miss any opportunities. When you're looking through our list of jobs, you can also save keywords. So maybe you're looking for an engineering role. You can search engineer, and anytime that position becomes available, you'll get an email directly. You can save these keyword searches for email notifications. So that's always a great way to make sure you're not missing anything, but I still recommend checking just in case your keyword isn't there, but it's still a job that's of interest to you. So I just took a small snapshot of the different kinds of jobs we currently have open just to kind of talk about a few of them here. But again, 38 jobs currently posted. This is only about 8 of them. So if you want to see all of our current jobs and keep an eye on the new jobs that are coming out, just go to winnipeg.info/jobs. So for the list I have here, the very first position is a seasonal role. This is one of our last seasonal roles that's still posted online. It's a clerical position working at our golf services pro shop. So you'd actually be working kind of at like almost a retailish location, working as kind of the front cash person at the golf courses. So really neat, great opportunity to get your foot in the door with us there. Another position that they're hiring for through assets and project management is our building servicer position. So this is the position I mentioned earlier where you're actually doing maintenance to certain buildings. And this one's working right out of the Winnipeg Police Services headquarters. So there are some specific qualifications you have to meet, especially a bit of an advanced police check, just because you're working right in the Winnipeg Police Building. But it's a great opportunity. Now you'll see here that both of these jobs say they're open until filled. Most of our jobs have closing dates, and all these April and May dates I have listed below, those are the closing dates for positions. Generally, you have right until 11:59 p.m. on the night of the closing date to submit your application. Just make sure that you give yourself a little bit of extra time because a lot of times what happens is somebody will be in the middle of their application. It'll be 12:02 by the time they're ready to submit, and the system is very literal. Once midnight hits, you can't even submit an application you're already working on. So I would say try to get it submitted by about 10 o'clock at night at the latest. These ones that are open till filled, though, usually it means that they're hiring multiple people. And once the positions are completely filled, then the job posting closes. So just get your applications in as soon as possible for those. Now, if you're looking for more of a clerical job or in HR, we do have a recruitment clerk position that's open. It's open for another 2 days, open until April 24th. You'll see a lot of our positions say clerk, and the clerk roles are really our administrative, office, customer service, support type jobs. Um, Generally, what happens is you'll see that they start at a clerk A, moving up to a clerk B, a clerk C, and a senior clerk. That's kind of the line of progression for them, with clerk A being the most entry level. But you will see there's a couple other ones in here. There's a clerk one, just a little bit of a different classification for the job based on the fact that it's working in our golf services. Or the recruitment clerk. I believe that's actually a clerk B, but it's focusing mostly on recruitment there. The next one, though, is a clerk B. It's an accounts receivable position, so more working on that finance aspect, and that's when is open until April 27th. I mentioned our bylaw enforcement officer jobs. There is one focusing on animal services, so maybe going out to a house if somebody's dog is barking, whatever it may be, and that one's also open until April 27th. If you have more IT experience and you're looking for something a little bit more advanced, we do have a senior business analyst job that's open right now. It's a 2-year term. That one's open until April 30th. I always warn people, though, don't shy away from going towards a term or a temporary job with us, because once you're in with the city, there's so many different job opportunities that you can move to. So many people I know started temporary. Myself, when I started a 311, I was a casual, part-time, temporary position. Eventually moved myself up to getting a full-time permanent CSR role there. And then once you have a permanent role, you're able to try other jobs, take a temporary role and come back to your permanent role, whatever it may be. And there's lots of permanent options after your term there too. So lots of room to move up. If you're looking for still some of that clerical work, our entry level clerk A is the most entry level into the clerical field. And this one is focusing on recreation services. That's one that's open until May 4th. And then we have an administrative coordinator job, which is open until May 11th. So a little bit more advanced there. All right. So once you've found the job, then what do you do? What are your next steps? So we don't accept general resumes. You have to specifically apply for each position you're interested in. And that's because each job requires a unique resume and cover letter specific to the job that you're applying for. It's really important to know that if you have a work or a study permit, it certainly may still be accepted. Only our Winnipeg Police Division requires you to be a PR or a citizen, but for all of our other departments, it's totally fine if you have a work or study permit. You just have to make sure that you maintain eligibility to work in Canada. And if there's any hour restrictions or anything like that, you let us know, because of course you can only accept a job that you're legally able to work in. You also want to make sure that you're including all of your information from the job posting when you're applying. So sometimes you're going to see in big bold letters on the job posting, it's going to say that a certain document is required. Now, the resume is always going to be required, and a cover letter is always going to be encouraged, even though it's not a full requirement. It's always a great opportunity for you to talk a little bit more about your qualifications. But these documents I'm talking about are a little bit more specific. Like if you were going to apply to be a bus operator, you need to attach a copy of your driver's license and some documents from MPI so that we know that your license is in good standing and that it meets the requirements we have. So if you ever see a job that says that something's required in big bold letters, just make sure that you're attaching that when you apply. Sometimes there'll also be testing or assessments for our jobs. A good example would be if you're applying for our clerical jobs, sometimes there's typing tests, or sometimes there's more software skills like Microsoft Word or Excel. We'll email those to you to do remotely and usually have about 72 hours from the time you receive the email to complete it. Again, if you feel like you need an accommodation, you can always reply back to that email and ask. But I always recommend to people, once you've started applying for jobs, really keep an eye on your inbox and your mailbox there. And also keep an eye on your junk folders, your spam folders, and your uh, email mailbox, because a lot of times the emails love to go there. If you catch one late, you can always reply back and ask if we are still doing testing, and we might still be able to accommodate you, but try to just make sure you're not missing that. Now, another thing you're going to see on a lot of our job postings is the requirement of a police record check. So this is a little bit different in a few ways. First, it's not the kind of document you need to attach when you apply. So please don't even worry about going and getting your police record check until we ask you to. It does cost money. It will be at your expense. So we don't want you having to pay for something like this when it's not going to be required. If it is a requirement of the job, and not all jobs even require it, but if it is, it's usually one of the very last steps in the process. So we would either make you an offer or tell you that an offer was kind of reliant on you getting a police record check. And then we'll tell you where to get it, when it needs to be received by, what kind of check you need, all that kind of information. So honestly, just wait for us to tell you when you need it. Now, if you do have a conviction or a charge, it doesn't necessarily prevent you from being hired. And a lot of people think that it does because we're the government. It's just not true. We would just look to see when it's from, what kind of conviction or charge you have, and really how it relates to the job you're doing. So, if you have a driving infraction from a month ago and you want to be a bus operator, sure, that might be a little difficult. But if you have something from 20 years ago and you're going to be an accountant where you're not driving at all, it might have nothing to do with your job and we could still hire you. So we'll always just look at the results and we would let you know if we have any further concerns. One thing you're also going to see when you're going through our application is a question, how did you hear about us? And specifically, it'll say, how did you learn of the job? And from there, you can choose a drop-down menu, which says agency organization. Once you choose that, a new drop-down menu will come up that says additional information, and you can choose Manitoba Start right from there. So make sure you do that. I will say that it's not something that specifically gives you like an advantage. It's not like because you came here today, we're guaranteed to hire you. It's mostly for us and for Manitoba Start, though, to understand where applicants are coming from, who's being hired, that kind of detail. We don't provide information based on your specific name about what kind of the details are, but it does help us knowing kind of where our applicants and our hires are coming from. So I'm sure Manitoba Star would appreciate you doing that, and we certainly do with the city as well. All right, now this is about qualifications, and I'm not kidding when I tell you this is the most important thing I'm going to tell you about today, because this is really almost the answer key to getting hired with the city. When we are hiring, we are basing all of our recruitment on the qualifications listed on the job posting. And each job has unique qualifications, somewhere between about 5 to 25 qualifications, depending on the job. And they're a big bunch of different things, everything from education and experience to knowledge, skills, abilities, and your conditions of employment. So what you want to do is when you're customizing your resume and your cover letter and applying for jobs with us, you want to have a unique resume and cover letter for each job because each one is going to talk about how you meet those qualifications. Your cover letter is more of a first impression. So that's where you can talk about maybe some of the skills you have that are hard to put on a resume, like talking a little bit about how you are organized or how you're customer service focused. But your resume is going to be where we're screening on things like education, experience. It doesn't really matter what resume style or layout you prefer. We manually review all applications, so it's not AI reading it or anything like that. We have about 50 some odd recruiters that actually review all applications that come in. So when you're writing it, make sure that you're writing it in keeping in mind that a person is reading this and that person has that list of qualifications. And if you can show how you meet them, that's really how it's going to be the best for you. The other big thing to keep in mind is we do not require Canadian work experience. So many people think that their resume can only include what they've done in Canada. That's not true for the City of Winnipeg. We want to know about any qualification you have that relates to the job you're applying for. So if it's from a different country, a different province, If it's not work experience, maybe it's personal experience, maybe it's from volunteer work, your schooling, whatever it may be, make sure you let us know about it. A lot of people get really stressed out about references too, and not knowing, especially when you apply, who do I put on my resume? So just know that for us, not all jobs even require reference checks. If they do require a reference check, it again would be done kind of similar to the police record check, one of the very last steps of the process. And what we would do is we would give you a consent form to fill out. So we don't worry about what you have on your resume. If you have some references, if you have no references, it's not going to make a difference to us because we're going to specifically give you a form to fill out if we do need references. And then at that time, that's when you can really start thinking about, who would be the best person for the city to talk to that can again talk about my qualifications. So generally, a current or a former supervisor is good, but sometimes it might be somebody from volunteer work you've done, somebody in the community, a teacher, professor, job coach, whatever it may be. Anybody who can speak to your references are, sorry, to your qualifications are really what we're looking for. And even though I'm sure like your parents or your family would say that you're a great person, we should definitely hire you. We're not looking for personal references. We really want people who can talk again about your qualifications. So once you've gone through everything and you get to the interview, that's when a few different real key steps come into play. So every single one of our jobs is going to have an interview. And for the most part, we try to only do one interview, not multiple rounds of interviewing. Generally, what'll happen is it'll be a panel interview with about 2 or 3 people, probably somebody from HR and somebody from the department you're planning on working for, likely your current or former supervisor. Now, when we're asking questions, we're asking things about your soft skills. So we might, of course, ask you about your experience and your education, but those things we really can see on the resume. What we want in the interview is to ask you about more of the skills that are really hard for us to just assess by reading a resume. And what we do is we ask behavior-based questions to find out that information. So even though it might be experience-based for this question that I'm giving as an example here, what we're looking for here is really more your ability to go above and beyond. So this question here would tell us that you have experience in customer service, and that's great. But we want to focus on more than just your general experience. What happened and kind of what kind of stat employee were you? So let's say you we're going for a 311 application and we asked you an interview question and tell us about a time you demonstrated excellent customer service, what happened and what was the result. When you're answering this question, you want to follow the STAR model and really focus on the full story about what happened in that situation while still keeping it a bit condensed just for the sake of the timing of an interview. So the first thing in the STAR model you want to focus on is the situation. Maybe you were in retail and somebody was really unhappy with a product and they came back to return it. Okay, so then what was your task? How were you involved in that situation? Were you the cashier? Were you the manager? What was your involvement? Now, the most important is your actions, and we want to focus on your actions. So, did you call around to a bunch of other stores trying to find a replacement product? Did you spend a bunch of time with this customer, walk them around the store trying to find something that maybe better suited their needs? Or was there nothing you could do and they just had to yell and get their frustration out and you just tried to keep them calm? Whatever your actions were, we want you to focus on that. And then again, tell us the result as well. So what did your actions do? Was the person happy in the end? Is there nothing you could do to satisfy them, but you tried your best? Really focusing on what you did and how that whole experience wrapped up. And again, a lot of people think that when they answer these questions, they have to be work examples. If you have a work example, great. That's probably the easiest. But lots of times these examples can come from working on a group project in school, helping somebody in your family, from your personal life, whatever it may be. Think about all those kind of situations if you don't have a work example, and there's probably something that you can pull in that ties to how you're qualified for this job. So once you've gone through the whole process there, that's when it comes to professional development. At the city, we have ongoing learning and training for all of our staff, free of charge. That's everywhere from computer skills to writing and speaking courses to moccasin making. There's lots of different things that you can do at the city. And we also will help try to provide some support for your education if budgets allow. So it's not always something that we can do, but we will sometimes try to help you out through your education there too. You can just ask if you need that. We also have great benefits and competitive salaries. The salaries are listed on every one of our job postings, so there's no guessing. You'll know exactly what the rate of pay is. And all of our staff also get dental, vision, ambulance, and pension plans. Doesn't matter if you're temporary, part-time, full-time, permanent. You just have to work a certain number of hours to qualify, and then you get those directly. There's also some optional benefits such as extended health and travel that you can choose to be enrolled in as well. So thank you all. I know that was a lot of information, so I really appreciate you listening to me here today. Again, I really recommend checking winnipeg.info/jobs regularly to keep an eye on the different jobs we have becoming available. You can also follow us on LinkedIn and social media to find out what's going on about the city. Sometimes we advertise jobs there too. But if a job ever is posted on social media, it'll also be right on winnipeg.info/jobs. And if you have any questions, concerns, anything like that, you can always reach out to 311 24/7. If they can't help you directly, they'll put you in touch with somebody who can. So again, thank you all so much for listening to me. Again, I've been with the city for 16 years, so I don't have enough good things to say about it. It's a really interesting place to work, great opportunity to work and give back to the community that we're all part of here too, and really just focusing on that respect, diverse, safe, and healthy workplace. So thank you all, and if any of you have any questions, I'm happy to take them now.
Thank you. Thank you, Todd, for that very informative presentation. Yeah, now we will open it up to the audience. We have some Q&A questions. I see Amarjit, you have raised your hand. I'm just gonna allow your mic and you can ask your question. So Amarjit, you need to unmute yourself from your side, but your microphone is allowed. Okay, so while we wait for Amarjit, we have a couple of questions stored here in the Q&A. So our first question is asking, what if an employee will decide to attend the university? Will it be allowed to work and study at the same time?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess it kind of depends on what job you have. If you're in a full-time role with us and you're looking to do your university at the same time as your work, you'll have to decide which one you're going to do. But we have plenty of employees who do university in the evenings, weekends, or just around the shifts they have. When I took my HR certificate, I did that in the evenings while working full-time, so that was certainly possible. Or in lots of our part-time jobs, we have lots of students who work and study at the same time. So,
okay, great. So Amarjit, go ahead, please. I see your microphone is able, I guess. Okay, so we'll go on until that works. And Karina is asking, where do I access information on all the upcoming career fair hosted by the City of Winnipeg?
yeah, no problem. So I did put a link in there just again to the winnipeg.info/jobs. Usually at the very bottom of that page, we'll have our upcoming events that we're going to that are publicly accessible. We don't have any public events coming up. We do a lot of work with agencies like Manitoba Start and doing these kind of invite-only events. But any public fairs will get listed on there. We're likely to be at the Queer Fair Canada event, which is going to be at the Convention Center on May 20th. Although I will say we don't hire on the spot at career fairs. It's usually more having discussions and talking about, how you can get noticed. So a lot of times you'll get a lot of the same information at the career fairs as you would from today's presentation. So it's still good to come, but if you're looking to just ask some questions, you might have already got some of those answers here today.
Okay, perfect. So Anuluape is asking, some jobs require a class 5 license. Without this, would we be qualified still? One of the job preference need a golf course. Is that necessary?
Yeah, so I'm just going to look up that golf posting just so I can make sure I give you the best information. So just 1 second here. Okay, so for the Clerk 1 Pro Shop Attendant, it's a condition of employment to have that Class 5 driver's license. So anytime you see something as a condition of employment, it means that there's no budging. You're probably going to be driving on the job, so you would certainly need to have your license for that. So unfortunately for that one, you do. Usually what I recommend to people is if you think that you meet most of the qualifications of a job, but maybe not all, you're still welcome to apply because we'll determine that when we're reviewing your application. But generally, if it's something that you don't have to have, but we might prefer, we'll either list the qualification as preferred or an asset, meaning that you can be hired without it, but it's something that we would look for from the successful candidate if possible. So if it's a condition of employment or it doesn't say preferred or asset, you can assume that it's required, like this one here.
Great. And another question from the chat is they're asking for qualification part in the job application. Will it be still considerable if someone is overqualified, or we need to remove higher a qualification from the resume?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I don't really believe in somebody being overqualified for a job because I don't think it's our job to determine why you're applying for a position. Maybe you're just looking for a change. Maybe you took time off for so many different reasons. That's not really for us to judge. What I will say is that some people who have a lot of qualifications and would be in the kind of overqualified territory um, might want to scale their resume back a bit, not scaling it back for things that are relevant to the job, just maybe excluding some things that aren't relevant. So maybe you were trying to get into our 311 call center and you ran a call center before. You might be considered overqualified. But for us, as long as you meet the qualifications, we would hire you. For yourself, though, when you're going through and putting your resume together, you might want to focus more on the customer service aspect of your experience rather than if you did things like budgeting and hiring, because that's not going to be part of the actual CSR role, right? So really just make sure that your resume and cover letter focus on the qualifications on the job posting. And if you have a lot more than that, try to scale down the ones that aren't relevant.
Okay, great. So I hope, Reginald, that also answers your question because they're similar. And now I'm gonna allow Luis. So I've allowed your mic, Luis. You can unmute yourself and ask your question.
All right, thank you very much, Todd, for this great presentation. I hope you can hear me, please.
I can, thank you.
Okay, great. Yes, one quick one. I would like to know how long does the whole recruitment take place? I mean, when I start putting my application, how long does it take for one to be picked for a role? And
Yeah, that's a
also,
great question. And I actually see something in the chat here too with somebody saying that when their auto reply says that their application will be dealt with in about 2 months.
Yeah.
So they wanted to know if that's a regular time frame. So great question for both of you. Um, Generally, we try to get recruitments completed. So from the date it was posted until the time somebody starts within about 2 months. That time frame really differs just depending on the urgency of the recruitment and also how many applicants we get. Because we're manually reviewing all applications, if it's in a recruitment with 12 applicants, well, it's going to be pretty quick. It's probably going to be a lot quicker than 2 months. Whereas if it's an application or recruitment with 500 applicants, we have to go through and read all those resumes, it might be getting close to the 3 month mark by the time we actually hire. So 2 months is about an average. Certainly, I've hired somebody within a week of them applying before, and I've hired somebody 6 months after they've applied. So it really depends on the job. You can go and look at your current job openings on your career portal there and look to see what the status is. And if it says that the recruitment is completed, then you know that the recruitment is totally done and you weren't successful unless of course you were contacted. So that's just a bit of a way to keep an update for yourselves too.
Okay, great.
right,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Todd. Okay, so we have Nazia, and they're wondering if there are any remote jobs.
Yeah, so most of our jobs aren't 100% remote. Like you do generally have to sometimes come into the office. We call them remote with a designated work location. So that means that you would be working mostly from home, but sometimes maybe there's a group meeting you have to come in for, or you might have to do a day in the office. Some of our positions are fully from the office because there's just no remote chance, and some are hybrid where you're working about 3 days from the office and 2 from home. Um, it really depends on the job, depending on which one it is, but all of our job postings will tell you if it's in person, remote, or hybrid.
Okay, perfect. That's great. And I have allowed Ash your mic. You can unmute yourself and ask your question. So while we wait,
Yes.
okay, go ahead, please.
Hi, Luna and Demers. Thank you for the great conversation. I have a question regarding this session. Let's say I'm a software engineer. I graduated in this field, and I'm interested in two job posting with the City of Winnipeg, but related to my experience. Is that okay to apply for both at the same time?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's no limit for the number of jobs that you can apply to. So you're certainly welcome to apply for 2 jobs, 10 jobs, whatever you think you're qualified for. Just knowing that every time you apply, you're going to want to apply individually instead of checking them all off and applying all at once. And that's just because you want to have a unique resume and cover letter for each recruitment.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I also saw somebody in the chat just asked, oh, sorry, I might have replied to the wrong one, but somebody in the chat had asked if this presentation will be shared. We generally don't share it just because sometimes the information changes. We don't want you to have outdated information. But I put a link in here that has 10 tips and tricks to landing jobs at the City of Winnipeg. And it also includes a link to a talent acquisition podcast I did for the city last year. I would certainly recommend going to that for reference. It has a lot of similar information for what I talked about here today, but just a good reference for you to have from home so you don't necessarily have to memorize everything I said.
Okay, great. That's great. So Miski is asking, I graduate with the public health degree, but the course we took are different from the ones in Canada. What kind of jobs I should apply?
Yeah, so there's a few different things to keep in mind for that. The first is that you can go get your Canadian equivalency assessment done. If it's a requirement of the job posting, there'll be a link on the job posting that just takes you right to the Canadian Assessment Equivalencies Alliance there. And there's a lot of different steps you can go through for finding that. If you aren't doing that, the jobs I would say in public health, you'd probably want to focus on. We don't really have that much public health at the city. That's more the province of Manitoba. But for us, it would be more things like health and safety or occupational health. So you're certainly welcome to apply for those jobs. I recommend putting in the credentials you have. So maybe putting in your education as a keyword search. So you also get emails when your qualifications become available.
Okay, that sounds good. So Amarjeet, I see you have raised your hand, but then I can see your question here. So I'm just gonna forward that to start. Applicants who have been educated outside of Canada must have education which is comparable to the minimum qualification in Canada. Applicants submitting for N credential require an official academic assessment report issued by a recognized. So that's not finished. Probably
Okay,
it
I
will
think
be, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's just being copied directly from the job posting, and that's the note that I just mentioned. So if it is a requirement to get equivalency assessed, then you can just go through that link that's right on the job posting to do that. But that's more going to be for some of our education levels that are a little bit more strict. So like being an engineer or a nurse or a accountant. Whereas if you're going for like a customer service job and we're just looking for your high school education, you don't need to get an equivalency done for your high school. Just let us know in your resume and cover letter what you have. And even if it's from a different country, you can always include kind of what that's an equivalency to in Canada, and the recruiter will determine if anything more is needed.
Okay, and another one is that the cost of police and other checks are covered during hiring process for low-income newcomers.
Yeah, so generally the police checks are not covered. If it's something that you think you need an accommodation for and we ask you to get a police information check, I always recommend asking. Sometimes there's vouchers we can do. It really depends on a lot of different factors, including the budget of the department too. So not a guarantee. But keep in mind that if you do need to go through a record check, that's why we do it as one of the very last steps, because pretty much as long as you clear it, you would be hired. There would never be a time where we get you to do a police check, you clear it successfully, and then we say, oh no, we changed our mind, or oh, we hired somebody else. It's really going to be one of those very last steps. So keeping in mind that even though you're paying for it out of your own pocket, it's likely going to be you getting approved to get paid and be employed with us very soon. So hopefully that helps as well.
Okay, perfect. So another question, that the City of Winnipeg handles employment for senior services or long-term care and the school boards?
Yeah, no, not really, unfortunately. Senior service care, long-term care, school boards, a lot of those things are handled through the province. School boards, we don't deal with pretty much at all. Senior service, not long-term care, but more of the work that we do for our seniors would be things like our active living through community services or our Transit Plus, which used to be called Handy Transit, if any of you are familiar with that. So some support and some work we certainly do for those areas, but I don't think quite the jobs that you're thinking about.
Okay, so, and thank you, Oluwashindara is saying, thank you for this wonderful session. I'm a microbiologist. Please, are there jobs opportunity in quality control assurance field at the City of Winnipeg?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of our microbiologist applicants end up working with our water and waste department. They have water treatment labs, so a lot of times it comes up through there. I recommend, again, putting in microbiology or microbiologist in a keyword search because it doesn't come up all that often, but there's quite a few jobs that it does come up for, so you'll see them when they become available.
Okay, perfect. And do we always have to do a record check when asked, or can we submit one we have had for another purpose?
Yeah, so generally they're valid for about 3 months, sometimes up to 6 months. So I always, same things you'll hear me say all the time. Just ask. If you're asked to do a record check and you already have something, you can just let us know you have it, send it to the recruiter so they can take a look at it. And if it's not the right kind of check or if it's not from the right time frame, they'll let you know to go and do it again. But lots of times we accept ones that are done for other. I know a lot of people have to get police checks just for immigration purposes, and it would be oftentimes the same check that we can accept as long as it was done through either the police or the RCMP. So.
Okay, perfect. That's great. Thank you, Todd. That was really nice. And thank you everyone for participating and for
Yes, thank
your
you all.
excellent questions. Yeah. And again, thank you for choosing Manitoba Start because our services are free and funded by Immigration, Refugee and Citizenship Canada, the IRCC, and the province of Manitoba. Your feedback plays an important role in helping us continue to provide high quality services. So please help us complete this 3-minute survey. It helps us understand your experience and ensure we are meeting the needs of newcomers. Your responses are confidential and will be only reported in aggregated, so without identifying you in any way. I'm just gonna share a link if you are unable to scan the code on the chat. And it will ask you today's event type and just put information session on that. Okay, just to save time, I'm just gonna go and then let you see how you can be registered with Manitoba Start if you haven't registered. If you have registered, but for those of you who need this employment support services, like with your resume, cover letter, or interview prep, then what you can do is you can either rebook an appointment, one-on-one appointment with your career coach if you are already Manitoba Start client. If not, then go to newcomer for newcomer option. Just click there and register for our services. Or either you can contact us through the front desk email. I'm going to share that with you shortly, and then phone us or maybe visit us in person at 271 Portage Avenue for all our career services. Then you can check our career services link here. We do have for credential recognition with resources as well. For those of you who are internationally educated professionals and want to regulate your profession and have a license and work with your profession from back home as well. For all our events like this, information sessions, online, in-person, speed networking events with specific employers, or maybe mock interview with some employers as well. Check our event calendar, and we do have also webinar recordings for some of our webinars, so you can check them on our webinar recording as well. So this is the way how you can contact us. So our website, we do have a registration form there as well, or any resource that you want to look at. You can phone us or email us if you want to reconnect with your career coach, if you don't know your career coach, if you want to start a one-on-one meeting with a career coach as well. We're also very active on social media. You can follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram as well. So this helps you to be updated on our events, and you can register for the events that we have at Manitoba Start. We do have also a monthly newsletter that goes to 35,000 subscribers. So you can also subscribe in our website on the first page. So don't forget that Manitoba Start is here to assist you by providing services such as personalized career coaching, developing your resume, and job assistance to help you find suitable employment. So for today's session, on behalf of Todd from the City of Winnipeg and the Manitoba Start team, I would like to thank everyone for attending, and stay well. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.